Well, there it is. Welcome everybody to 21 Soul. Yes, I said 21 Soul, and I know what you guys are thinking. What happened to Ropeadope TV? It's the same two guys on the same couch. Well, here's what happened.
It's called a sofa.
Sofa? What's the difference between a sofa and a couch?
I don't know. I've just been told.
Well, we switched positions on the sofa, and that's really the deal. No, seriously, 21 Soul, you know, we're going to have the same elements we had with Ropeadope TV. We're going to be talking about Ropeadope releases. We're going to be sharing Ropeadope interviews. The main difference is we're going to move outside of the Ropeadope network, and we're going to be interviewing people, artists, independent artists that are just interested and excited about this space here at the Ropeadope Room, our new location. You know, we're going to have straight and direct talk about things that matter, both in the music industry and everything under the sun. I'm Fabian Brown. I'm here with Mr. Lewis Marks. Welcome. And Lewis, please, you know, share with us what we're listening to and what we're getting into here at our 21 Soul episode.
All right, we've got some upcoming things from the Ropeadope catalog, Ropeadope releases this year.
Okay.
And we came in with Mr. AJ Gent. Just trying to get the volume straight there. Man, what can you say about AJ Gent? First of all, great human being,
yes.
which you know.
Yes.
But, you know, royalty in Sacred Steel guitar. His great uncle was Willie Eason, and his grandfather pretty much invented the whole style of Sacred Steel, pedal steel. So, you know, that's something to look up if you don't know your history, but it is part of the American legacy, and he's got a record coming up, which is, I gotta say, departs a little from the church. Departs a good bit from the church in a sense. I mean, the soul and the vibe and the feeling and the power is all there. But certainly he wants to make it listenable, and he wants to make it funky.
I love it.
Or he just can't help it. You know. But he's calling this record the Neo Blues Project. So very important that you know, he is redefining presentation of the blues with gospel infused blues music. That's also just very current and very relevant and fun, I might add.
That's great. This release comes out on March 16th, so check that out. It features, you know, AJ and his wife Marla, who, what I'm gathering is kind of almost like the mastermind of the
brains behind the operation. Is that what you're trying to say?
That's what I'm saying.
Well, AJ might, I don't know. He might agree with us 100%. Aubrey Gent Jr. And he put this thing together you know, he plays everything, right?
He's a fantastic musician. So
soulful.
You know, we have a bunch of things coming up throughout this program. You know, we're going to be having some exclusive features from the group Prager, Lakeisha Benjamin, Chuck Lichtenberger, Middle Blue. We have John L. Nelson. We have a lot of things coming up. Remember, you can check out everything on ropeadope.com, Spotify, iTunes, YouTube. You know what it is.
Another treat from an upcoming release.
Nice to see we're not the only ones working.
Well, if you weren't sure who that is, there's a little bit of a clue there. The band is Prager.
Yes.
The name comes from progressive rock and I assume Frogger. The video game?
Okay.
Yeah, there's a general sense of humor that permeates everything that Brian Donahoe, the band leader, does.
Brian's great.
The The band starts at UNT. Brian, if you don't know, an original member of Snarky Puppy.
That's right.
Co-wrote some things on Bring Us the Bright and other Snarky Puppy albums. But really, a lot of this comes from his collaboration with Matt Mueling, and his he's got a different vision, I think, than the Snarky Puppy vision. I shouldn't say I think, I know. Guitar is prominent, and there are two bands to Prager. There are a band in New York and a band in Austin.
That's great.
Two guitarists in each. So this album represents the coming together of both of those Prager outfits.
That's great.
I had the pleasure of visiting for just a brief time in Brooklyn. I was up there. Oh boy, it was a whirlwind kind of thing, and we had seen Jonathan Barber over the night before, and I was hanging out with the guys from Senior Langosta, another great guitar-based semi-fusion-y kind of band. I don't know if I use the F word, but those guys, we had breakfast at Whole Foods, me and the guys from Senior Langosta. Then we went around the corner on a sleepy Brooklyn Sunday. Not much is happening.
Right.
People doing their thing. It's in Gowanus. And there's this place, Atlantic Sound Studios, which is owned by Michael League and his cat named Deco. And it's just this nondescript kind of space. You walk in and, we come around the corner and then there's a van there and Brian's unloading stuff and people are moving in and out. And he's shuttling people in, but he brought together both of these bands. All of Prager, basically. To say both of these bands, it's all of Prager,
right?
And they were all just moving in this studio. I mean, you couldn't stand anywhere for 30 seconds without somebody, bumping into you, moving stuff around, grabbing an amp, sound checking in this room or that room. It was pretty exciting and organized chaos, I think, and the result is just stunning. So it's kind of like that. So much is set, but so much is chaos. And that's what makes the experience.
Yeah, that sounds like Brian. I've only had an opportunity to meet him, a handful of times. A lot of email and phone conversations. And what I can say, he has a crazy work ethic. There's a lot of media behind this album. There's a lot of videos that you can catch on YouTube. Just really impressed with his. The way he holds himself, the way he holds the band, the presentation of it all. I can't wait for people to chime in and let us know what they think about the album coming up.
Nice. This track name is Housewives. Check it out.
Yep.
And I'm going to jump on to another great
nice
new release coming out.
Album comes out March 9th, Dystopia with Prager.
Live your dreams.
Oh, this one.
Or live your fears. I think the majority of people actually not living their dreams. Living their fears. Despite this horrific pain, cannot be undone. But if faith with courage, we need not be this again. Take my gosh, you gotta dig down deep. Cut it out. Keep on going. Again and again and again. We wake up. We clean up. And we stand up. My God. My song, you have the ability to
in the face of adversity comes the real, the last seed of romance, let's not digress.
So this album coming out is Miss Lakeisha Benjamin on March 23rd. Lewis, please speak about this album, about this individual. What do you got to say about Miss Lakeisha Benjamin?
Well, first of all, I just want to take a minute and say how great my job is. Okay? And the reason my job is great is not because of celebrity or connection to what people might perceive as celebrity, but these are just truly some wonderful people. And Lakeisha is just, so amazing. We haven't met in person, but we've just had some wonderful conversations. And you can feel the energy, the positive power.
Yep.
This is a woman who grew up in Washington Heights. Lakeisha is daughter of an American immigrant, like so many in our country. I was reading about Dwight David Eisenhower today. I'll take a little aside.
Dwight David Eisenhower, one of our
President
presidents.
Eisenhower, right? Mother, immigrant, or grandmother.
Okay.
Look it up, you know.
Yeah.
Just, you know, wonderful story. But, so she grew up in Washington Heights. Lakeisha grew up in Washington Heights and learned how to play saxophone at a very young age and had a choice. Basically used that saxophone to move her way forward and out of what might have been what definitely would have been a very dangerous situation, and sort of a cycle for her, and got to audition at, I think it was LaGuardia High School, and she had this wonderful quote about it, where she says, she goes in for the audition, and I'm forgetting the cat's name, but we'll put it down. And he says, what do you know of jazz? And she doesn't know it. Like, she knows merengue, she knows the Dominican stuff, but she doesn't know these jazz cats. And she said to him, I don't know any of those people, but all I know is you got to let me into the school. And the guy's like, well, you know what? Here, take these 5 names home, study this stuff, and come back. And she did. She went and bought the stuff, learned it, came back, ended up at the new school next, and now is playing worldwide.
Yes.
And I wanted to point this out that you take it at face value, but then you dig a little bit deeper and just think about it, which was already there to begin with. But here's a woman who is a black woman.
Yep.
She's a band leader in jazz. Okay?
Yep.
Right? She's out front, and she's worked with the State Department and gone to places around the world as a leader where people have looked at her like, what? Wait, I don't understand. You're just over here, right? And they're like, no, I'm right here, right? I'm right here. I'm the thing, and people can't even understand it. And she deals with it with grace, dignity, and power, like a fierce power. And, like many albums on Ropeadope, she has comments about what's going on in society today.
Love it. We'll take a listen to this next one. March 30th.
March 30th, but a quick whisk from Washington Heights all the way out to it's not even like Elon Musk stuff. It's like time travel. Right now we're in Nashville, right?
Time travel.
And bang, that heavy that guitar, that sound, that tightly crafted. Call it all country, call it pop, call it rock, call it whatever you want. I call it good songs. This is a band.
Wait, isn't Ropeadope a jazz?
A jazz label? I don't think so. This record came to Ropeadope, like many do, through friends, or through connection. And this was someone closely connected to Colonel Bruce Hampton brought it to us. And I think it was bold and creative of him to do that. And of the band. And I got to tell a story. I'm going to say it on camera. This is how I met this band, right? So I am in New York, and I have very little time. I'm out front of the Blue Note. I can't even remember why. I think I'm at the front of the Blue Note to meet the people from Tidal who want to do a thing with Eddie Palmieri. Right?
Okay.
And the band's like, can we get together in New York? I'm like, I only have a little bit of time. If you want to come by the Blue Note, come on by, right? So they're like, yeah, we will, right? So they pull up in a white van, and I got things set for them. I'm like, just pull right in here in this parking garage. Pull in the parking garage, the guy's like, New York style. He's like, no. And then he sees, like, the Nashville cast. He's like, definitely, nope. Nope. So I think the guy suggested, he goes, well, why don't you just hop in? And I'm like, you got it. So I hop in the van.
What?
We back out, and I'm directing them around the West Village to find a parking spot. And we had our meeting about what Ropeadope is about, what the band is about. Do you want to be with Ropeadope? Like, this signing, so to speak, happened in a van wandering around the West Village.
That's the first time I heard that story.
Spot, we got a coffee. It was great. And then, as my time is, as rude as I was, I'm like, all right, guys, great to talk to you. Got another meeting. And it was in the coffee shop next door, and I'd like jump to the next thing. But tight songs, well crafted. Great quote from Andrew Nelson, the songwriter. He says, it's 12 bars in the human condition. And that's what that band is about right there.
March 30th, Great Peacock, Grand Pavo Real.
Real, I think.
Real? I'm Hispanic too. That's the worst part. Real.
I wanna feel real. I wanna feel real. Please stop singing through your nose.
Let's pull up the credits on this one. It's just so much fun. Please stop singing through your nose. We are listening to Chuck Lichtenberger from Asheville, North Carolina. Asheville, not Nashville, but Asheville, and they'd be mad if they heard me say that. Do we have the credits on this? Because I really want to find out. It's a record done by Chuck, who has got a very, we're gonna say quirky. Everybody's got to say quirky.
Quirky.
Not that one. Yeah, no.
I'll dig.
Chuck. Yeah. In the studio with Jonathan Scales as producer.
I love it.
Right? The great Jonathan Scales, who really needs to put another record out.
He does.
Soon?
Yeah, hopefully.
No, it's coming. It's coming. We're not allowed to say that yet on camera, but yeah. And I suspect that Jonathan brought some pretty amazing cats into the studio, and I suspect that Jonathan really did help guide Chuck's genius. And this stuff reminds me of so many great musicians before, whether it's Frank Zappa or Les Claypool or Weird Al Yankovic, who, yes, I will call a great musician, because when you can put it together and have that perspective on humanity that's got a little bit of fun, a little bit of humor and disarming wordplay.
Disarming wordplay.
Which is something that Colonel Bruce was great at, because what that does is it puts the brain into a space where it's not accustomed to inhabiting, right? It pushes you into new territory as a listener. And then, if you give it a chance, then you find some amazing things.
What are you digging for? Not the credits?
There it is. So, I don't know if the credit is on this track, but when I heard that bass come in, I felt like that was Mono Neon, the
Mono Neon.
A person who also masters that presentation, maybe not intentionally, and maybe Chuck's not doing it intentionally, but Mono kind of has this quirky thing, right?
Yeah, for sure.
And it makes you pay attention, and you realize right away you're set. You're like, okay, I'm embracing something new. Let me dig in.
No, that's
so this song. Sorry?
No, that's great. Go ahead, please.
This song called I Want to Feel Real. I don't understand it yet. I hope I do one day.
Listen, the conversation I had with Chuck and management the other day was so just refreshing. Again, he's very engaged in what he wants to do and his message and the backstory of how this album and where he wrote this album and that whole thing was just like, yep, kind of ties it all together. Definitely make sure that you're checking it out. Listen, Spotify, iTunes, Amazon, Bandcamp. I'm probably forgetting some things. YouTube, but you got to check these things out. We have a couple more things coming up. In fact, I
want to hear the end of this real quick. I'm going to cut you off.
That was great.
Jonathan, let's slap some auto-tune on my vocals and we'll be done with that track.
Oh, wait a minute. Weren't you just thinking about not doing any of that?
That's just my public persona. Who do you think we can get to overdub my piano parts?
Oh my God.
Sorry, I knew we needed to hear that.
Oh, yes.
Go ahead, and I'll bring this back up a little bit later.
I mean, listen, there's a lot of great things that come down. This next album is released on March 2nd. John L. Nelson, and I'm not going to take any thunder because just being a fly on the wall on all of the conversations I'm overhearing with you and their team, my mind is blown. I remember the first time I heard this album, I'm listening to it, I'm like, is this old? Is this new?
Right.
And then I heard that saxophone, and I recognized the saxophone, and just instantaneously, I'm like, okay, what's the story? So who's
the sax player?
Vincent Herring.
Vincent Herring. There you go.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, so this is the John L. Nelson Project. Don't Play with Love, produced by Sharon L. Nelson at Paisley Park. I got an email and a phone call one day about this record. And I had the great fortune of talking at length with Sharon L. Nelson, who is Prince Rogers Nelson's oldest sister from his father, John L. Nelson's first marriage, right? John L. Nelson was married twice. He's from Louisiana, I believe. He was from Louisiana, and he moved to Minnesota. To Minneapolis to make music, and had a family, and then settled down in a way, rather than continuing on the musical path and touring. He worked at, I want to say Honeywell. I think that's it. He might be. I think Sharon said he's the first black man to ever be hired there.
Wow.
But for 30 years he worked, 8 to 5. But would get up in the morning, compose a little, come home, play piano at night.
Working musician.
She said that, she just remembers clearly going to sleep and hearing her father working things out on the piano.
Wow.
Years later, he talked with Sharon about putting, recording some of his songs, his compositions. But soon afterwards was involved in collaborating and co-writing with his son, Prince, on Purple Rain, and, and then, it got pushed off again. He passed away, I believe, in 2001 or 2002, and Sharon was in touch with her brother about getting the record recorded. And of course, Prince passed untimely, and she's cleaning out her kitchen and or some part of her house, and pulls out the box, and the papers from these songs fall out onto the floor.
Like the movie.
Literally, shout out to Brian Hurst, literally like the movie Purple Rain.
Oh my God.
And she realizes that that's a really important thing, and so decides to get it done. She had already been given the green light to get it done at Paisley Park, and got Louis Hayes, who,
yes,
strangely enough, is John L. Nelson's nephew, Prince's cousin. He played with Cannonball Adderley and has a full band. Brought them into Paisley Park. They recorded 7 songs, learned them, recorded them quickly, as live as you can get, really, these days. And I'm just thrilled to be part of something like this, but also, I pop this on to different people who I know are producers or accomplished musicians, and I don't really say much, and then let them go ahead and comment, and everybody turns. They turn, and they say the melodies.
Yep.
And it's funny because Sharon said that John L. Nelson always said, your money's in your melody. And so
that's a tweet.
It's interesting. There you go. That's a tweet.
That's a tweet, man.
There you go. Well, I think we're where are we here?
Yeah, that's
man.
that's a show.
There's the show. We're going to take it out with the beginning from another new record that's coming out. And there's a certain drummer that we have become acquainted with here at Ropeadope over the last few months that has a touch that is undeniable. And we're going to talk about it in the next episode. Yes?
Yes, 21 Soul. Subscribe. Check us out on all social media channels. We'll see you guys next time. That touch, man. Thank you, sir.